Every organization that thinks proactively don't end up cleaning the mess. If you think proactively, you may not have need for a public relations consultant because they are always available to clean the mess for you. For those who manage image, if they have a proactive principle and he listens to them, they don't end up cleaning the mess. I link up this with emergency issues in Nigeria. Where is emergency placed? Is it in the front burner, or we remember emergency when it happens? Our focus on discussion segment is managing emergencies in Nigeria. My guest is an expert. He's the Director General of the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, Alhaji Idris Abbas. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sometime I attended the function, and it was there about 2013 that there was some thoughts towards a national emergency policy in Nigeria. But before then, there is one published in 2010 called the National Disaster Framework. Is it in force?
Yes, absolutely, it is in force. The framework is to enable all the emergency workers be able to have coordination and follow the roadmap for adequate and proper response.
Okay. Is it static?
No, it can be static. You know, at every incident, we have to sit down and look at the framework and also look at the kind of incidents, because in some cases you find out that the situation is even new. It's not even captured in the actual, maybe you are on plans. So you have to sit down and then reappraise and then look at the lapses and where you need to really fill the gap, you fill it up and then modify and move forward.
So you're saying that the one of 2010 to now has been reviewed severally?
Constantly, yes, regularly.
As the development?
As the development, yes. Okay. Because 2010, 2012 we had flood, which had a lot of casualties, and so that also made us to sit down and look at it, because we were not expecting that kind of magnitude of losses. And so also the response, how do we really, as emergency workers and disaster managers, responded to that incident? So you review. And when there was also bomb blasts, series of bomb blasts in the nation, we also had to, and even with the kidnapping, because some are alien to our nation, so we really have to. So as we speak,
if we go on the net, we'll see the one maybe of 2018
absolutely,
already?
Absolutely.
Okay, now the concern basically is on the 28th of June 2018, just like 9/11 in the United States, it will remain very memorable in the minds of Lagosians and Nigerians. The incident that occurred at the Otedola Bridge in Lagos. Yeah. Well, commiserations have come from the federal government. The vice president has led a delegation to Lagos State. A lot has happened. By the last count, the Lagos State government has come up, says henceforth all articulated vehicles must obtain the Transportation Ministry's roadworthiness certificate at any of the designated centers within the next 30 days. But the concern is, when it happened, were we ready to attend to it as it obtains in other climes?
Yes, as usual. All the disaster managers have to get prepared for any eventuality. Okay. And I was aware that the Lagos Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, were really very prepared for any kind of eventuality. And if you can see the response they made, it was fantastic, going with the kind of terrain they found themselves because of the hold-up and other things. And so we need to commend them for doing a good job, and that is how it's supposed to be. We always sit down battle ready for anything to happen. But one key thing that we need to understand is that there are challenges, and most challenges comes from the public also. As you are trying to go for rescue, some people are trying to block you. When you get to the rescue scene also, when you are trying to rescue life and property, some people are busy trying to do camera, to take pictures or to videotape. And so these are the challenges that we normally face. And it is, going by the opening statement, it is only when it failed to achieve the desired goals, then you bounce back on the rescue workers, and you see that certain things are happening. Meanwhile, there are those kind of challenges. But actually, all the disaster management agencies, that is the basic of the framework, that we need to sit down and get prepared. Preparedness is key to every emergency situation.
Okay, a lot of decisions have been taken now by the Lagos State government, and I hope and believe that NEMA, I see NEMA as the coordinating body, because NEMA is the National Emergency Management Agency, and we have the states, the SEMAs and the FEMA. You're FEMA.
Yes.
Now, is there a synergy amongst all of you?
Absolutely. The NEMA is supposed to be the national coordinating body for all the emergency sectors in the country, and the state's emergency management agencies are the first responders. They must respond, and it is only when they are overwhelmed by that kind of disaster that NEMA should come in to assist them. That is how the framework is designed. So, and the state's emergency management agencies are to coordinate other emergency workers within the states and make sure that they have their response plans very well articulated, and then when it happens, the state emergency management agency will call all of them for activation of that plan. Once that is done, and you will see that there is synergy, there is collaborations, and then there wouldn't be any clash at the scene of incidents. Instead of turning to be a spectator, as it used to be then when there was no adequate plan, now you will see that you were able to identify who is this incident commander, where do we do, what do we do, and before any other thing also, you had already arranged to make sure that the victims of that incident are adequately taken care of. How do we take care of them is by identifying the hospitals, health facilities that you can be able to take. Before the incidents come, before you start rescuing, there must be somebody who will contact all the desired hospitals, that we have an incident at hand and we are expecting so much casualty. How much do you take? For instance, in the FCT, we'll have to get maybe a Socorro district hospital. If they said they can only take 2 victims, we have to take only 2 to them. Get to Maitama, get to other hospitals. That is how we will do, so that by the time you take a victim from the scene, you don't have to take him to this side and come to this side again. You go direct to specification. So that is how to handle those who are affected by any incidents. Okay. And then they will be able to, the hospitals will not be overwhelmed in such a way that you go there, you see dead bodies outside lying down instead of taking them to morgues and so on and so on. So
you know, when there's a development in Nigeria, a lot of issues trump up, opinion poll and what have you. Yeah. Now, arising from the Lagos incident, so many things have come to the fore now. Yeah. And maybe you may be able to speak to a few of them. Yeah. One, is emergency management a specialty? Mm-hmm. And if it is a specialty, why is it that in most of the states it is seen as a juicy posting? People are posted there who have little knowledge about emergency management, and we hear a lot of funds are voted for emergency management and the funds are diverted. Is emergency management a specialty, and why should we be putting people square pegs in round holes at the state level? It happens, maybe it's not happening at FCT, maybe it's not the case in Lagos State, maybe it's not the case at the federal level, but most states of the federation, if you meet those at the hem of affair emergency-wise, they are square pegs in round holes.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, and the reason is not far-fetched from the fact that the government has not made disaster management to be a front burner, as we said earlier. If we had taken disaster management very seriously, we should be able to include it in our developmental plans and make sure that there is really a monitoring and evaluation on that sector. And also, because the government is even fighting corruption at this moment. I think there is need for the government to focus on that aspect, to make sure that money meant for humanitarian services are channeled properly. And then the people that are going to man those that sector should be trained personnel, not just to bring somebody who will come and sit down and look at the money as an avenue of making it his own or for his own people. And in most states of of Nigeria, you find out that the state emergency management agencies are not well equipped. And you go to some state, you find out that the entire workforce in that agency are not more than 10, with a permanent secretary and then some few key officers. And they are really, some states are really using it to enrich themselves. And in a situation where you are trained, the first thing that you are going to be told is that you are handling humanitarian services. And in such a situation, you can even use your resources to make sure that you rehabilitate or you repatriate or you really sustain somebody's life at that instant. So I think we need to, if the government focus on real development, I mean emergency management or development, disaster management as really an issue for developmental plans, an issue of really fighting corruption, we should sit down and look at it and make sure that it is those that are trained. Okay. It's just like a medical doctor. If you take me to handle patients, you are just telling me that go and kill them. Okay. But if you bring a specialist, a doctor, who really knows the case, he will be able to handle it. And it's the same thing. Okay, that leads me to this. An expert sometimes said, for elections to be free and fair, it is the people, not the umpire. For the case of Nigeria, is the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, I see NEMA at the national level, FEMA at the federal, at the FCT level, and SEMA at the state level. Like that one. The agencies you're supposed to work in sync with, are they really responsive when you need them to respond to you? But if you are, like if the hospitals, the media, name it. If you are coordinating and you don't know what to coordinate, how do you get a response? Okay, that's the problem now. That is the problem. Okay. You can't get a response. And you need to tell the hospital what you want. As a disaster manager, this is what I want. Okay. And these are the kind of victims or people affected with this incident that I'm bringing. And this is what I want. You don't have to take somebody who has internal injury to a what do you call it, orthopedic hospital. You need to understand this, and these are all being trained. You undergo training, you will be able to know what kind of patients from that is seen. You'll be able to identify where to take who and where. And then if you do that, you can also be able to bring together all the stakeholders, all the responders together and address them and tell them that, look, this is it. They are bringing their own response plans. You are going to vet the response plan as a coordinator. And then you look at it, if it is going to be really doable. If it is not, you have to tell them that, no, we can't be able to do this. You have to give us a response plan that will be able to activate when there is a case. Okay, let me tie it to the National Disaster Management Framework. Yeah. The development in Lagos, so those sad, may their souls rest in peace. And what lessons do we learn in terms of, if you are now saddled with the responsibilities, okay, tied to the development in Lagos and review the framework, what will you be doing? Well, first and foremost, you know, after the development, I mean the framework that we are following, you know, there were development in the globally, whereby the disaster risk reduction issue comes up. And the essence of the disaster risk reduction, which is the focus now globally, is for you to really reduce even your response, to be able to identify those things that you can be able to eliminate. And like the Lagos incidents, it is just an issue of traffic, which can be managed properly. And so if you stop articulated vehicles and probably tankers going into the city from so hours to so hours, you will reduce the disaster. And even when it happens, you find out that the casualties are not going to be much. And I think that is what the Lagos government has done now, banning articulated vehicles from flying the road.
Right for other states?
Of course. FCT, we have it. Okay. You cannot move between 6, because the last tanker incident we had at AYA, that has been re-emphasized again. You cannot move between so hours. If you go out around Nyanya, you will see them parking. They have to wait until when the traffic is less before they come past. We've been monitoring that. Okay. And you see, and that is the essence of coordination. As soon as we monitor, we cannot enforce. We have to call the relevant sector.
Okay. How aware are Nigerians? Because, for instance, for FCT, you say there's that law which the Lagos State government has enforced now. If maybe right now I'm driving around, say, Central Business District, and I find a truck, what should I do?
You should call immediately. Yes, we have 112 emergency number. They are active, and we have the 122, which is directly to the Office of Federal Road Safety Corps. So you call them and tell them that this is a violation, and they have to stop because you are seeing disaster in the waiting. So definitely they will act. Or you call the road traffic, this FCT road traffic, the road traffic officers, to stop them from.
For other states that are yet to implement this, do they need to wait until there's an emergency?
They don't have to. That is the kind of preparedness we are saying. Okay. You have to look inwards. Like in FCT, we going around to take a usual assessment of the city entirely. We discover that there are proliferations of gas stations in the city. You go to your house, you come out, you see somebody displaying cylinders, selling gases. This is very risky. And we had taken statistics of that, and we have forwarded to the authority and advised them that we are now at this next stage of talking to DPR who are giving them license, because we discover that many of them doesn't even have license. And even where they have license, they are asked to a station in one place, but they are somewhere else. They are not supposed to be closer to where people are. So we are now working hard to make sure that we stop that disaster from happening. The impact of explosion is enormous, because when there is a gas explosion, even the woman who is frying kose outside, her own fan will also explode, because it will go in the air. The motorcycle rider also, as he is emitting this, it will also, so it is so we have to really reduce it. So any state has to get prepared. They have to sit down and look at it. What are really the hazards? What are the risks?
Most times when things of this magnitude occur in Nigeria, everybody says government, government, government. What role should the people play? Because from other climes, we see that during times like this, everybody rallies around to ensure that solution is profiled. But what role should the people play? They have a role ultimately, right? Well,
it is just the normal saying in disaster management. Disaster management is everybody's business. You don't wait for government. You have to be your first responder first before calling the institutional first responder. You have to do what is to be done. You have to exercise your own checks in your house before you leave your house. What did you do? How do you place your cylinders? How do you buy? Do you buy PMS and keep in the house? What do you do? So a lot of things. Do you go to start your own generator with your phone, answering phone calls, or really making calls? These are all risky things that we have to avoid. And this thing has been in public domain. So you have, when you do that, you clean your environment, you sanitize your environment, then you wait for government to do its own. The first thing is you. Be your first responder before calling government to come and rescue you.
28 June 2018, how do we avoid that completely? Not just about FCT, not just about Lagos State, the entire country.
I think we need to really strictly enforce the laws. We have all the laws. It is enforcement. And it is only when it happens, then we start grumbling what to do and what we know what to do. You find out that we know these people are not supposed to drive during those hours, and we allow them to drive. And even if it is weekend, that you know that the motorists are not on the road, since it is a law, we have to enforce that law to avoid, because you don't know what will happen. You don't know where this will take place. So I think it's the enforcement of those laws and regulations that we have to. And we have to do that by ensuring that everybody does his own job as expected.
Thank you very much. Alhaji Idris Abbas, Director General, FCT Emergency Management Agency. It was nice having you on Insight.
It's my pleasure too.
Emergency issues is not about government, it's about all of us. Be the first to respond before maybe the coordinating agency, in the case of FCT, the FEMA, in the case of National, NEMA, in the case of the state, SEMA.